Good evening, everyone. Welcome to ASCC August 10th meeting. This afternoon, we had a site meeting at One Tynan Way. And there were story pole flags, which was really helpful, I thought, for the neighbors. It was great. And so this application is for the Relic family. And they've been trying to do this project since 2024. Is that correct? So hopefully we'll get you on the map tonight. I first want to make an introduction to Sonia. I didn't do that at the last meeting. Sonia is a new member of the ASCC, and it's just always so wonderful when people step up to serve. And you'll find the best people in town are on town government. You'll love it. Okay.
Should we do roll call?
Pardon?
Roll call. Commissioner Dillon, and reminder to turn the mic on and off when you speak. Commissioner Dillon?
I'm here.
Commissioner Vaughn?
Here.
Commissioner War?
Here.
Vice Chair Dixon is absent, and Chair Breen.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, good. So we'll dive in here. First, we're going to do oral communications. Oral communications are for things not on the agenda. Anybody who wants to speak, we can hear you out, but we won't discuss it tonight. Any oral communication people here or online? No?
And reminder for those online, if you'd like to speak, please use the raise hand feature. I don't see anyone online right now.
All right, you guys. All right, so we're ready to go. First thing on the agenda. All right. Item 3. C3. So this is you guys. Tynan Way, we'll hear from staff and then you guys can come up to the table and talk. Okay? All right, thank you.
Good evening, commissioners. Thank you. My name is Nick Martell. I'm a senior planner and project manager. I'm representing the town of Portola Valley. I'm going to present tonight on One Tynan Way. You all were there earlier for the tour. So I'm just going to give a little bit of background and information about the site. First, project location. We were all there earlier today. I think you guys figured that out. The second is the site plan up here. So the site plan has a lot of information on it, but most notably where the building is going to be going, where some of the lighting is going to be, which I will also get into a little bit. And also, most importantly, that they're meeting code when it comes to max floor area. They do not exceed the 85% of MFA or the max IS. So they're within the code for all those aspects of their plan set. I'm going to show you the demolition plan. So you can kind of see, it's a little tough to see on this screen, but you can see the dotted line over there that shows what's going to be demolished and what is going to be staying on site. You can also see the X's where the trees are being proposed to move, and I have another map of that later on in the presentation. So this is the demolition plan of what's staying, which is the garage, and then what will be removed. You can see that on the left part of the screen, we have the existing building and the existing site as it is right now. And then on the right part of the screen, then you have the site plan that's being proposed. You see that there's not much change in where the building is being located. It is a different building and then maintaining that 2-car garage. Like I said earlier, the trees that are being proposed for removal, I know we talked about them a little bit earlier, the 4 in the front yard and then the 1 in the back that encroaches into where the building is going to be built. You can kind of see on the red dots right there, that's where the trees are that are being proposed. The north elevations show that they're meeting all the height requirements of the municipal code, which would be 30+ feet over there, which they're not coming close to. The west elevations where you see the stairs. The east elevations, which you can also see all the heights and then the chimney. And then the south elevations, none of them are exceeding the height requirements in the code. Regarding the materials, all the materials that are being proposed are well within the LRV requirements of the municipal code and compliant with all city code or all town code. The lighting plan is also a little bit, there's a lot of information on here. So you can see the blue, the red, and the orange location markers there. There's 9 wall lights proposed and 15 path lights proposed in addition to the lights that are currently on the site. All the lights are down shielded and meet lighting code per the municipal. And I did want to mention one more thing is that they are also, the proposal for the site plan is all within the setback boundaries per the municipal code, which is 20 feet and 10 feet. So there are no setback issues either. And there are 4 parking spots provided on site as well. We've received a couple of public comments since the packet has been published, and we sent those earlier this afternoon to you all for your review. And I know a couple more have come in that they were later than we were able to publish them. So finally, staff's recommendation is that we recommend that ASCC approve the architectural review for the demolition of an existing single-family residence, driveway, and impervious site elements, and then the construction of a new single-family residence. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Any questions from you guys to the planner? No? No? Okay.
Oh, thanks. And 2 residents who are concerned about privacy and the light, one down below and the one on the other side of the street. What is our landscape planning or fencing, any of those?
Regarding any privacy mitigation or any privacy measures, the thing that planning looked at when you were reviewing this plan is whether they met height limitations and whether they met setback requirements. And so those were the things that we look at when we're reviewing where a building can go and how high it can go. So that's kind of the requirement. There was no particular screening requirement for vegetative screening.
I have a question. Bill, you mentioned that there was an issue with the driveway, with the U-turn driveway with the town. Can you clarify that? And
then we'll ask you to come to either the mic here or the mic at the
right, you have
podium.
to-
Sorry, so just so everyone online can hear you too.
or maybe you can answer it.
Can you hear me now? Previously in the town, in my experience, has not liked U-shaped driveways. And so with that thought in mind, we chose, we could perhaps eliminate our U-shaped driveway. However, there seemed to be no objection to it from the site committee. So if we can leave it, we would leave it. We are taking the driveway out and it's being replaced with crushed granite and not an impervious surface. So it does provide for more off-street parking. And as people know, parking is a little dear.
So you prefer to have a
I would prefer to keep it
driveway?
the way it is, yes.
Thank you. I just needed clarification on that.
Yep.
All right. Any other questions? All right, well then,
I have a question of the applicant. Come on up, Bill. I mean, the current site, and the garage were, developed, in concert, or, to be compatible, with the cabin design. The new house is very, very different.
Yes.
Is there anything about, the new design that takes that into account? or is there a future phase?
There's a future phase if one can afford the present phase to convert the garage into a more acceptable looking structure.
Okay.
A bit more in line with what's proposed.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, now,
I just had a quick question about the listing of the tank as both a gray water and a rain tank. Could there be clarification on that? Because those shouldn't mix.
I can only clarify that that would be a building code related question. And so this would, I think it would be outside of the purview here.
okay,
If I'm mistaken.
thank you. So now we'll open it up to oral communications. If there are people in the audience or people online who would like to ask questions, raise your hand. No one in the room wants to come on up, Wilson.
Hello, my name is Wilson Farrar, and I live at 4 Russell Avenue. And I think the Relics are lovely neighbors, and I am excited for them on this project. I am relaying a message from PJ at 9 Russell Avenue, the gentleman that you noted below. He was unable to attend tonight, so I said I'd be happy to read his notes, so it would be part of the record. He writes, "The structure toward the downward slope is slightly taller and has large windows. I suspect that the new house's master bedroom and bathroom may therefore have a direct view into the bedroom at 9 Russell. Conversely, the side yard at 9 Russell may have more visibility into the new house's bathroom. The best solution may be to add some natural screening along the boundary, perhaps 3 to 4 foot plants or bushes. We could also consider a taller privacy screen or fence extending into the star-shaped drop toward Russell, where additional screening may be needed for the side yard. Again, it's hard to tell or visualize the exact sight lines right now, so this may become clearer once the structure takes shape." So that was from PJ. And I just wanted to add, is there any chance to keep some of the trees? I assume there's not. So that was just a comment sort of question. And my vote or hope is that you get to keep the U-shaped driveway. Thank you very much.
Any other questions, comments from the audience? Is there anybody online?
I don't see any hands raised online.
All right. Well, then I'll close oral communication and we'll bring it back to the commission to talk about it and maybe ask further questions. Lance, you want to lead off? No? Carter?
Thank you, everybody. This is not my first rodeo on this property. I was actually on the ASCC when the garage was approved. So it's an interesting, shift, in architect style. I find the design pretty intriguing. I think it makes sense on the site. I have a few concerns. The first one, I talked about, during my questions, to the applicant, about the stylistic difference, which I don't find problematic, but I do think that the ASCC should understand, that there's a second phase likely, in either the short term or the long term. My concerns really, are focused around a couple things. One is the downslope, below the house. Now that the house and the deck are moving, closer, to that slope, is protecting, the existing landscape materials, and the existing trees, in that area. There are a couple of big toyons, that we talked about a little bit, that I think if there's ways, to preserve and protect those, or do, as, I don't, is the term used,
Coppice.
coppice? A coppice treatment, of those, early, so that they can be shortened, and encourage, the additional growth. The other thing that I noticed in the landscape plan was that the plants that were being proposed, are ceanothus, which historically in Portola Valley are considered shrubs and not trees. Your landscape architect, has identified them as trees. I think the positioning of those, is probably appropriate, but the species, is, if it's irrigated, is not a long living plant. My experience with, ceanothus in Portola Valley is that, 5 to 10 years, and they give up, really out of natural causes. And I think that instead of that, the landscape plan should really do something more permanent, and long-term, for the mitigation of principally the deck. The other thing that we talked about on site, was the long, accent wall, alongside the stairway, coming alongside a bathroom, at the end of the house. I really believe that has, it wasn't modeled on the site, and I think if it'd been modeled on the site, you'd probably respond as we have, that it's probably too long and too tall. I think if it, pulled back, to, either the planter, or the end of the steps, rather than extending to the landing, and also found another height lower than what it's shown, in the renderings in the model, I would find that acceptable. I like the colors and materials, I like the site plan. While I personally support, the 2 driveways, I think it's probably better, that we follow through with the policy statement of the town, and stick to 1 driveway. And look forward to moving this forward.
Thank you. Sonia, do you want to take a crack at it?
I think what Carter mentioned, and most of it is quite important points, is about the privacy and the screening and same what Vin had talked about. Those are my only concerns. For the U-shaped driveway or single, I think given the safety of a narrow street, I'm for the U-shaped driveway.
Thank you. Lance?
I'll echo support for the U-shaped driveway. It's there. It's already contoured. So let's utilize some additional parking there. I know it was kind of tight even when we were there for our site visit this afternoon. The exterior lights, the lighting plan was a little bit, I didn't blow it up large enough apparently. So just to remind, we have kind of a policy of 1 light per exterior man door. So I know some of those walls might want to be bathed in light, but I think we want to try to keep the light halo down. I don't know what the radiance of the windows would be at night, but there is a lot of beautiful windows. So I don't know if window treatment to keep, especially the north elevation, the downhill side from getting washed in light might be appreciated. I'd echo what Dana and Carter had said about the trees. Perhaps adding additional, because we are coming closer to that, to Russell with the edge of the patio, I think, if I'm reading the plans right, to try to enhance that a little more. So below, I think you would end up benefiting from it as well, being able to be out on your deck with a little less viewing from below. And yeah, so just adding a little more bulk early on so that it starts to layer in on that north side, looking down onto Russell. I kind of see what Carter's saying, but I also, as I looked a little bit more on regarding that site wall, especially this would be on maybe on the west elevation going off to the left side, coming down the steps towards Russell. Maybe trying to drop that a little bit, because it does seem like an awfully massive. It does provide a very strong corner to the house. I just don't know if you benefit from that being so strong. But I'm not going to fall on the sword on that one, but might be something to look at. But I do see that it does run a top plate all the way across that west or east elevation of the house. So I can kind of see the design. Yeah, I'm not, let me finish before you feel you have to say too much. But those would be my thoughts, just mindful of the lighting and mindful of the trees. And I support the driveway.
Thank you. Okay. I've known this house for a really long time and I love it, but I think what you're doing is fabulous. I think the design is super cool. And I think you're just, for the rest of your lives, you're really going to love living like that. Most of my comments are landscape oriented because I like the site. I like kind of how rough it is and all the toy on, you know, I think you guys, because you garden and you work on your site, you can work with those toy on by coppicing when you cut something with the intention of letting it come back, and it comes back fresher and fatter. And, you know, and I think looking, and also with the red berries up on top, you would be looking down onto the trees. I don't see cercis, the redbud on your property. I think it's more of a woodland property. And I think in terms of looking down, one of the most fabulous things you can do looking down is the California native derivative of Cornus Eddie's White Wonder, dogwood. White dogwoods, they grow with their flowers facing up. And it would be wonderful to tuck them down into that hillside. So, and also the ceanothus that your landscape architect is using is a big leaf ceanothus, which the deer will devour. So if you want to use ceanothus, which Carter says are short-lived, you know, I would use, you know, one of the smaller leafed ones that are larger. But I would also add another evergreen shrub in there that can be growing in the meantime. The great news about ceanothus is it grows so fast. So that'll fill up the space, but as it starts to decline, you want to mix something else in there. And I wouldn't do a whole lot because I think it is so charming. You know, do you have bulbs and things like that on the property? I mean, you could bulbs, daffodils, too, things like that. The ceanothus I would use is Julia Phelps. It's very big and it has a tiny leaf, so the deer are not compelled to. Anyway, I think it's good. I hear what you guys are saying about the wall. You could look at lowering that wall, but I feel like probably for your architect, that wall is a statement, is an architectural statement. So, you know, as long as it's not lit, and you mentioned wall washing, never, ever washing walls in Portola Valley. You know, we're supposed to be dark. So, you know, other than that, I think toy on driveway, you can do it, you can do U-turn or whatever you need, you know. I saw when you popped up the first picture of the site, you have a star-shaped site, which is really kind of cool. Anyway, I'd like to see you remove all of the privet, any privet anywhere, and go with the toy on. You know, just let, but other than that, I don't even think you're going to have to add that much. But I think wherever you'll have sensitivity is from the neighbors feeling like they need more screening. So, but I would keep it minimal. Just choose the right plants, and I can help you with that if you want. Anyway, those are my comments. So does anyone have, looks like you want to talk again?
Apparently, I need to clarify. I was wanting to be cautionary about not having walls washed with light. Yeah, that was my concern. But I also I like the project. I think it's going to be like a wonderful little Easter egg in the neighborhood, just when you pop around the corner there. There it is. It pops at you. I think it'll be neat.
I see, from my angle, I see why the architect has offered this wall is to give the privacy on their deck, and also probably it will reduce the light flowing out to other houses. So I think it might have few benefits from reducing the light.
Other questions, thoughts? Does anyone want to make a motion?
I move to approve the project as proposed with a couple of conditions. That there be a landscape protection plan to detail which plants and what trees are being preserved, along that downhill slope down to Russell, and that the planting be reconsidered in that area to end up with species that will be more deer resistant and survive and become more permanent. That landscape plan and that mitigation and the tree removal and the landscape protection and tree protection plan would come back to designated member of the ASCC.
Anything on lighting? Because I couldn't read the plan. It was too tiny. So do you have any thoughts on lighting or?
I thought the lighting, seemed reasonable and rational and, well thought out, in light of, the architecture. I'm and the interior lighting is probably going to have, more to do with, offsite impacts than anything. So I think the landscape mitigation, on that downhill slope down towards Russell, should be detailed in a way to help mitigate, both the interior and exterior lighting, as well as the impact of the deck coming out over the.
Thank you. Is there a second on his motion?
A question, do we want to include a note on the driveway and accepting the U-shaped existing driveway? Grandfather that in?
Well, it's not being proposed, it's a request, during tonight's meeting. I don't know what the impact is, on the impervious surface calculation.
Okay.
I mean,
So is there a second on his motion?
or would you like an amendment,
No?
Lance?
Pardon?
You want to make a friendly amendment?
I think it's up to allow them to research, and if it conforms, they could keep it.
Okay,
Their impervious surface.
yeah, I support that amendment.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Good. So here we go. We got to, anyway, congratulations, you guys. I'm excited for you. Yeah. All righty then. On to our next subject. And you guys, I would presume you're all leaving. What's up next? So just inside ASCC work.
I look forward to watching.
Well, you won't be the only one. For the wall, my comment was, that I understand his point of view, that it's mimicking the walls. So I'm happy to lower it. It's at its highest point it should be. You can lower it a couple of feet, but it is also structural. Stairways.
Okay.
So the lighting was minimal. Because,
We're done.
we throw something.
No chatting. Good night, you guys.
So I think they should keep the height.
All right, so on to item 4, which is about the ad hoc subcommittee. Are you gonna?
Yeah, hi. So Sarah Course, Planning Building Director, I can provide just a little background for the context of this agenda item. So one, we just want to make sure we're following protocol when we're voting on ad hoc subcommittees and or maintaining them. There's a little more information in the staff report that's online, but some of the background is really just about the town's needs that we've heard about, the needs around objective design standards and to update them, and that some work could be done by an ad hoc subcommittee to develop a research and analysis report and to report that back to this committee, and for that to be used potentially as a baseline for some general understanding of, the needs, gaps, or even best practices of what's going on with objective design standards in the town or in other towns around. I also wanted to point out that there was an ad hoc subcommittee created back in July 28th, 2025. And from reading the meeting minutes, it looked like it was originally Commissioner War and Commissioner Dixon, and I believe Commissioner Vaughn had also offered to be on the subcommittee. But if you tuned into the Planning Commission meeting last week, we did a similar thing where there was a subcommittee that was created, and it's been about over a year, and we want to make sure that the subcommittee has, one, a very clear task and also a timeline for what they're achieving, because they should exist for a very specific purpose and to not kind of consist in perpetuity. And if they do, then it should become a standing commission or committee. So it's a little bit of the background here. So we're here to vote on the members, and that's, I guess, my quick overview. Thanks. Yes, sorry. So 2 members because it can't be a quorum, which would be three or more.
Already deep in it.
Yeah.
And I think you have to have a lot of knowledge about it, and so I would volunteer to do it.
Okay.
I think we could have it.
Yeah.
How many are in the committee already?
So we're
We're
going
starting
to vote
over.
on the 2 members now. So there were committee members voted last year, but given kind of the timeline and sort of the uncertainty of what the deliverables the committee were, I would say we're reforming it again with a more specific task and timeline. So it would be voting on the 2 members that you would like from today moving forward to work on the research analysis report for objective design standards.
So, point of information, I think that committee, if I recall, was about the pre-submission visit, wasn't it? Wasn't that what Gina was?
No, I think that was,
Working on a couple things.
it,
2 or 3 things.
yeah, I mean, that, part of it was, it was actually had to do with the mixed use, and, the mixed use zoning district changes, to make them more objective, and pulling them back, from, where some of the consultants, had them. This one, I mean, to me, part of what we need to establish is, what the goal is. And from my point of view, it's about the residential districts. So, it's about the single family districts. It's not about, commercial. It's not about, offices, it's not about mixed use. It's not about, the multifamily and, and so forth. It really is intended to, help protect, the town, and give an objective thresholds, for, that within which, staff, and consultants can easily, deal with the residential projects that fit within those guidelines. And then, making those thresholds, supportable, and defendable, when reviewed and looked at, by, California State, HCD. And then, reinforcing what the ASCC's role, is, in, providing, guidance for those projects that don't comply, with those guidelines, with those limitations, so that, I mean, currently, the way the town is that, projects under 400 square feet, in residential, don't require design review, and so this would be a way of, establishing a threshold high enough, to develop single family residential in a way, that can be affordable, and rational and, in the context of Portola Valley. And then, establishing thresholds that, are low enough, that we don't worry about, things like reflectivity, color problems, height problems, floor area problems and slope problems. So I think this committee could, get its work done. I know Sarah would like us, this committee to look at, some of the best practices, of other towns, and what they're doing. I do think that there's, there needs to be some level of review of that, but I don't know that it needs to be exhaustive. Because I think it really is about, understanding what problems that we potentially see coming, from objective standards, and setting objective standards that, will help protect the town's, ethos and the general plan. And then give the ASCC, that charge, to provide guidance for projects larger and more, exceptional than that.
So,
Not down.
119.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for the clarification. I think you're a great suggestion. Do we need to second that and make a motion to pick you? What do you want, Sarah?
Also, typically for all agenda items, you should take public comment and then move to the
Uh-huh.
I'm
motion.
just trying to think of what I'm going to say while they talk. So
Okay, is there public comment on this? Online?
Not online. There was someone earlier with a hand, but I think they meant to probably comment on the previous item, but
Oh.
I don't see them anymore. But thank you. Now we can move on.
Okay,
Yeah, I move approval of myself and Dana being on that ad hoc committee to accomplish the goals, which I outlined in the last 5 minutes.
okay.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Okay.
Opposed?
Okay, here we go. Informational items. Non-scheduled, commission staff and committee reports.
I can do a quick summary of just update with the planning and building department.
Good.
If you give me 1 second to pull up my screen. All right, thank you. So I'll do a quick overview of sort of what's going on in the planning building department and a reminder of a few things. So one thing I wanted to remind everyone of is that we have planner counter hours as well as virtual bookings. So if we're getting questions or people have questions about applications, processes, we really encourage them to either come in during planner counter hours, which is Tuesday and Wednesday, where we have planners in staff in person from 8:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. So that's Tuesday and Wednesday. And then we also have the option for virtual bookings. Those are typically about 30-minute bookings where you can talk to a planner. If you have questions, again, about an application that you're going through, then we welcome you to schedule a booking. So we have those available Monday through Friday. Monday, Thursday, Friday, it's from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Correction on the last one, not 10 p.m. to 2 p.m. So 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So just want to make sure that we spread the word about that. And again, if people have questions, they're welcome to come walk in Tuesday, Wednesdays, or schedule virtual bookings online outside of those hours. Another thing I wanted to bring up is the fact that there are planning and building monthly reports. So we're going through to make sure that we have these monthly reports based on our permits that we have approved or are in review, and looking to post those online. Right now we've caught up with the building monthly reports. We're looking to have the planning ones as well. So kind of planning applications that we've received, they're currently under review or ones that have been approved. So with that, I'll at least report out for the building permits that were issued so far in 2026 from January to June has been a total of 236 permits. You can see the breakdown per month. There was a higher number in June, just a couple projects that had a wider variety of permits, maybe more activity in the summer, but definitely saw more of a record number in June with some of the building permits that were approved. And hopefully in the future, I'll be doing the same breakdown with planning applications, and we can talk more about that and build more awareness on types of applications, including SB9 projects. Another reminder is code enforcement. So this snapshot is taken from our website. And if you want to learn more about code compliance, there's a little more information there and information about how to get in touch if you have a code compliance concern or report. So we ask everyone to email code@portollavalley.net. So if you are seeing something that you think is unpermitted work, not allowed, against the code, town requirements, we encourage people to report that. We don't have unlimited resources, so we do have a code enforcement officer that's in 1 day a week and also is addressing email throughout the week. If it's an emergency, though, we'll address it as an emergency and elevate it as needed. But for other code compliance reports that are not emergency, not kind of life safety, we'll get to it as we can. And then also, if there's corrections needed, we'll then look to the property owner or kind of the person that's out of compliance, and we'll give them the appropriate time to come into compliance. And so with code enforcement, there's a variety of processes, but typically eventually, we can send an inspector out, and there might be courtesy notices given or official notice of violations that will help that property owner or whoever it might be along and give clear direction on what they need to do to come back into compliance. So just wanted to send a reminder about that. Some other things going on in our department. So for housing element amendment, just want to do a quick update. We're all aware that we're going through a housing element amendment process. So we're right now at a phase where we submitted the amendment to HCD on July 16th, and we're currently waiting for a response from HCD. So they get about 60 days, and we'll look for a response by mid-September. So looking forward to hear back from HCD to see if they have any comments on that. The safety element. So a little bit of a pause right now. We did have a public review period in June, closed that. We're reviewing comments, and we're still evaluating the next steps. But as we've been communicating with everyone, and what we heard at the joint Planning Commission Town Council meeting was that we would compile comments, address them, and then come back to Planning Commission and then Town Council through study sessions before we submit to the external agencies. So we'll take a little bit of time to go through that process before we move that project forward. The other bigger thing that we're working on is the implementation of OpenGov. So OpenGov is our digital permitting platform that we got approval from and budgeting from Town Council this past winter, and then move forward with implementation. So staff has really been working on that, having weekly meetings with OpenGov, meetings with staff, trying to formalize our processes, make sure we're working through what is our permit process, what's our workflows, how is everything working, and then how does that translate into a digital platform. We anticipate launching this in fall, and fall would hopefully be end of September, early October, fall 2026. And what this might look like, what we will be hoping for and very excited for, is a platform where people can submit their permit applications online. They can pay online. And with this system, there is a very visual way to see the status of your permit application. The process will be much clearer and laid out for applicants, and we'll plan to have as much information as needed to make sure the permit process is very clear, because right now it's very manual. It's submitting an email, and that is not very clear what happens after you've submitted your application via email. So we really hope to clarify all of our processes through implementing and launching this system. As part of that, though, we're also updating our GIS information. So with the town's permitting system, there's a lot of information that's out there that's great to have when we're getting a project or record coming in, where there's flags, there's things we need to be looking for. It might trigger a certain review or a certain requirement. So we're also getting our GS data up to speed. So we have all the different information we need to have to look up what's going on with individual properties or across the town. So with that, that is kind of coming with our permit process implementation. But we also will look to have a GIS public viewer, so members of the community can go online and also look up their property and information related to it. So that would be the end goal of that project as well.
Is that going to be coordinated with San Mateo County's viewer?
Yeah, so there is cross-reference with that, and there's data that we typically will also update monthly through San Mateo County, and we'll look to have typical layers that really relate to the information that we need for our permit process for plan review, and then layers that we've heard that are of interest to the community and the committees as well. We obviously don't want to try to duplicate information, but I know we can also, I believe, like directly pull that information. But we're working with a consultant who's been doing the town's GIS system for a while, and we're getting that integrated into OpenGov as well.
Great.
Thank you.
In our next meeting, and I don't know if we can put how we put this on the agenda, I want to pursue this idea of notifying neighbors should another project come up like 119 Puerto Madera, that the neighbors must be notified. And I don't know if that's an agenda item, if we need to vote on it, but I think that's something I want to pursue. Okay.
Yeah, so that's for more specifically, I would say like SB9 projects that are coming through. And I believe that could be a policy we could create or something we can look into, where again, the noticing isn't notifying of a meeting or whatnot, but it would just be notification of this project or this application. So we can definitely look into that.
Because the neighbors didn't know. All right. All right, thank you. Okay, so let's move on to minutes. Minutes of June 17.
Reviewed and move we accept as submitted. I didn't know I spoke that
Second
much.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
I wasn't there.
Okay. Okay, now on to the next one, June 22nd, ASCC meeting. Motion to approve.
Motion to approve is submitted.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And that's it. Motion to adjourn. I thought we were going to be here
Seconded.
for hours. What?